Nobody in the Galactic Assembly had ever seen an entire species go quiet before. The transmission screens that normally showed human diplomats smiling and negotiating had turned dark 3 days ago. Every channel, every frequency, every quantum link to human space returned nothing but silence. Counselor Maiva pressed her webbed fingers together nervously. Her amphibian eyes darted around the massive chamber where 300 species had gathered. She had served as a diplomat for 40 years. She had seen wars begin and end. But she had never felt fear like this. The Varadi Dominion had made their demands 6 days ago. Surrender 3 human colonies. Hand over 80 million people. Accept Varadi rule or face destruction. High Sovereign Dral had laughed when he made the demand. His insectoid body towered over most other species in the assembly. His black compound eyes showed no emotion as he spoke of conquest. The Varadi had swallowed 12 star systems in 10 years. They had never lost a war. Ambassador Yuri Volkov had listened to the demand with his hands folded calmly on the table. He was an older man with gray hair and tired eyes. When Dral finished speaking, Volkov had simply said 5 words. "We do not surrender, people." Dral had clicked his mandibles in amusement. "You have 200 years in space. We have 4,000. Your fleet numbers in hundreds. Ours numbers in tens of thousands. You are soft creatures from a poisonous rock. You will submit or you will die." Volkov had smiled then. It was not a happy smile. "High Sovereign, I must give you a warning. Not a threat. A warning. Do not do this." "Warning." Dral rose to his full height. "You warn me? 40,000 warships will enter your space in 6 days. Your colonies will burn. Your people will serve us. This is not a negotiation. This is your notice of conquest." Volkov stood slowly. He looked around the assembly at the hundreds of alien faces watching. Some showed pity for humanity. Others showed satisfaction that someone else would face Varadi aggression. "Then I have nothing more to say," Volkov said quietly. "Accept this. You have never seen what humans become when we are pushed. I pray you never learn." He walked out of the chamber. 3 hours later, every human communication channel went dark. Now Maiva watched High Sovereign Dral pacing before the assembly. He had expected terror. He had expected begging. The silence confused him, and confusion made him angry. "They hide," Dral announced. "They cower in their little worlds and hope we will forget them. We will not forget. My armada crosses into human space as we speak. In 2 days, we will reach their first colony. We will show the galaxy what happens to those who defy the Dominion." "High Sovereign," Maiva spoke up, surprising herself. "Perhaps we should wait. The silence is strange. It means nothing." Dral cut her off. "Humans are young. Humans are weak. They have no great weapons, no vast armies. They spent their 2 centuries building farms and schools and hospitals. They are prey animals pretending to be predators." Maiva wanted to argue, but stopped herself. She remembered something Ambassador Volkov had told her once, years ago, when they had shared drinks after a trade negotiation. "My people have a saying," he had said. "Beware the anger of a patient man. We humans are very patient, counselor. We watch. We wait. We prepare. And when someone finally pushes us too far..." He had trailed off, staring into his glass. "What happens then?" Maiva had asked. Volkov had looked up with those tired eyes. "Then we stop being patient." Now, watching Dral boast about his coming victory, Maiva felt a chill run through her cold blood. The humans were not hiding. The humans were not afraid. The silence was not cowardice. The silence was preparation. Somewhere in human space, Admiral Diana Okonkwo stood in a command center deep beneath a mountain. Around her, thousands of officers worked at their stations. Screens showed the Varadi armada moving through space like a swarm of locusts. "Admiral," a young officer reported, "the Varadi have crossed the border. They destroyed our warning buoys." "Expected," Okonkwo said calmly. She was a tall woman with dark skin and silver hair. She had commanded human forces for 30 years. She had trained for this moment for all of them. "The Whisper Fleet reports ready," another officer announced. Okonkwo nodded slowly. 200 ships. That was all humanity would send against 40,000. The Varadi would laugh when they saw such a tiny force. They would not laugh for long. "Send the word to all colonies," Okonkwo ordered. "Phase 2. Get our people underground. And send a message to the assembly." "What message, Admiral?" Okonkwo turned to face the screen showing the approaching enemy fleet. 40,000 ships, 12 million Varadi warriors. They thought they were coming to conquer helpless prey. Tell them humanity accepts the Varadi challenge. Tell them to watch closely. And tell them. She paused, her jaw tight. Tell them we are sorry for what they are about to witness. The message went out across the galaxy. Species that had already written humanity's obituary stopped and listened. Counselor Maiva read the words and felt her heart's beat faster. Something was coming. Something terrible. The Varadi did not know it yet, but they had made the worst mistake in galactic history. They had challenged humanity. 200 years is not a long time for a spacefaring species. Most civilizations spend their first 1,000 years simply learning to survive among the stars. They build colonies. They make friends. They discover, too late, that the galaxy is full of predators. Humanity had learned this lesson on their very first day. Dr. Ingrid Larson remembered that day. She had been a young physicist working on faster-than-light communication when the first alien signal reached Earth. The message was simple: you are noticed. Prepare to be claimed. It came from the Varadi Dominion. They were still 50 years away from human space, but they had already marked Earth as future territory. Like wolves circling a wounded deer, that was 200 years ago. The Varadi had been busy conquering other systems. They forgot about the small blue planet with the soft creatures. They assumed humans would be easy prey whenever they finally arrived. They did not know what humanity had been doing during those 200 years. Now Ingrid stood in the deepest laboratory on Earth, 3 kilometers beneath the Swiss Alps. She was old now, her hair white and her hands steady. Around her hummed the machines she had spent her life building. The Stillwater devices are fully charged, she reported to the screen showing Admiral Okonkwo. All 200 units are installed in the Whisper fleet. And you are certain they will work? The Admiral asked. Ingrid almost laughed. We tested them on asteroids, on moons, on empty ships. They work, Admiral. The question is not whether they will work. The question is whether we can live with using them. Captain Oluwaseun Adeyemi listened to this exchange from the bridge of his ship, the Whisper. He was a young man from Nigeria, barely 30 years old. He had trained his entire adult life for a battle he hoped would never come. Now it was here. Captain, his weapons officer Priya Nair called out. Varadi fleet is 16 hours from the Karos colony. Adeyemi nodded. Karos was home to 3 million humans. Farmers, teachers, children. The Varadi would enslave them all if they reached the surface. They would not reach the surface. Signal the fleet, Adeyemi ordered. Prepare for phase jump. We move in 1 hour. Across human space, civilians hurried into underground bunkers. Cities that had bustled with life fell silent. From orbit, the colonies looked abandoned. The Varadi scouts reported this back to war leader Thesic with satisfaction. They flee like insects. Thesic laughed, his mandibles clicking. Their worlds are empty. They offer no resistance. He stood on the command deck of his flagship, surrounded by screens showing his magnificent armada. 40,000 ships stretched across space like a metal cloud. Each ship carried warriors bred for conquest. Each warrior had killed before. Should we pursue the fleeing civilians? One of his officers asked. No need, Thesic replied. Once we control their worlds, they will surrender. Where can they run? We own the stars now. He did not know about the bunkers. He did not know that humanity had spent 2 centuries digging deep into every colony world, building shelters that could withstand orbital bombardment. He did not know because the Varadi had never faced a species that prepared for war while praying for peace. Back on Earth, Admiral Okonkwo addressed her command staff one final time. In a few hours, we will engage the largest hostile fleet in galactic history. We will be outnumbered 200 to 1. Every other species in the galaxy believes we will lose. She paused, looking at the faces around her. They do not know about Project Stillwater. They do not know what we can do. Admiral, General Amit Sharma spoke up. What if the Varadi surrender? Do we accept it? We accept any genuine surrender. Okonkwo replied firmly. We are not monsters, General. We built these weapons to protect our people, not to commit genocide. If they stop, we stop. And if they do not stop, Okonkwo's face hardened. Then we erase them from the battlefield. Completely. Permanently. May God forgive us for what we are about to do. In the chapel aboard the Whisper, Brother Aldrich lit a candle. He was an old priest who had volunteered to serve with the fleet. He did not carry weapons. He carried faith. Lord, he prayed quietly, we go now to do terrible things. Not for glory, not for conquest. We go to protect the innocent from those who would enslave them. Grant us victory if it is your will. But more than victory, grant us mercy. Let us remember that even our enemies are living souls. Let us never become the monsters we fight. Captain Adeyemi found him there an hour later. Father, we jump in 10 minutes. Aldrich stood slowly. I know, my son. I will be on the bridge with you. You do not have to watch. The old priest smiled sadly. Someone must remember what we do here. Someone must make sure we do not lose our humanity while saving it. Adeyemi had no answer for that point. 10 minutes later, 200 ships vanished from Earth's orbit. They reappeared in the Kairos system, directly in the path of 40,000 Varadi warships. War leader Thesic saw them appear on his sensors. He counted them. Then he counted again. 200 ships. He laughed so hard his officers stepped back. They send 200 ships against my armada? This is not a battle. This is a joke. He gave the order to attack. That it was the last order he would ever give. In a distant nebula, far from the battle about to begin, an ancient machine watched. It had no name that younger species could pronounce. It simply called itself the Watcher. For 40,000 years, it had observed the rise and fall of civilizations. It had seen empires born and die. It had recorded countless wars that it had never seen anything like what was about to happen. The Watcher focused its sensors on the Kairos system, where 200 tiny ships faced 40,000 warships. By every calculation, by every law of warfare, the smaller force should be destroyed in minutes. The Watcher prepared to record another extinction. Instead, it recorded the impossible. Captain Adeyemi watched the Varadi fleet on his screen. The swarm of enemy ships was so vast it blocked out the stars behind them. 40,000 vessels, each one bristling with weapons, each one carrying warriors eager for blood. Captain, Lieutenant Nair reported, her voice steady despite everything. They are launching fighters. First wave is 500 ships. They are coming directly at us. Just us? Yes, sir. The rest of the fleet is holding back. I think they want to see what one ship can do before they commit. Adeyemi almost smiled. They want a show? Let us give them one. He opened a channel to Admiral Okonkwo back on Earth. Admiral, we have contact. Requesting permission to demonstrate. Permission granted, Captain. Show them what the Whisper can do. And Captain, try to give them a chance to retreat. We are not executioners. Understood, Admiral. The 500 Varadi ships closed the distance quickly. Their weapons charged, glowing with deadly energy. Their pilots laughed at the single human vessel that dared to stand alone. War leader Thesic watched from his flagship. Destroy it slowly, he ordered. I want the other human ships to see their champion die. The Varadi opened fire. Hundreds of energy beams and missiles streaked toward the Whisper. It was enough firepower to crack a moon. The Whisper vanished, not exploded, not destroyed, simply vanished. The weapon's fire passed through empty space where the ship had been. Varadi gunners checked their instruments in confusion. Their target had simply ceased to exist. Then it reappeared. The Whisper phased back into normal space directly in the center of the Varadi formation. 500 enemy ships surrounded it on all sides. Activate Stillwater, Adeyemi ordered Dr. Larson had explained the technology many times, but seeing it work was something else entirely. The device created a bubble of frozen time. Everything inside the bubble simply stopped. Not destroyed, not killed. Stopped. A sphere of shimmering light expanded from the Whisper. It touched the Varadi ships, and they were gone, not exploded, not burning. Gone. 500 warships vanished from existence as if they had never been there. No debris, no wreckage, no bodies floating in space. One moment they existed. The next moment they did not. The Watcher in its distant nebula recorded the event. Then it recorded it again. Then it ran diagnostics on its sensors because surely they were malfunctioning. They were not malfunctioning. War leader Thesic stared at his screens. Where 500 of his ships had been, there was now nothing. His sensors showed no energy signatures, no distress calls, no escape pods. His warriors had not died. They had simply ceased to exist. What? He whispered. What weapon is this? War leader, an officer reported, his voice shaking. We cannot contact any ship from the first wave. They are not destroyed. They are just not there. The whisper hung alone in space where 500 ships had surrounded it moments before. Captain Adeyemi opened a broadcast channel. Virati Fleet, this is Captain Adeyemi of the Human Defense Force. You have seen what we can do. I am authorized to offer you one chance to retreat. Leave this system. Return to your space. Never threaten humanity again. If you do this, no more of you will be erased. He paused, letting the words sink in. If you continue your attack, we will remove your entire fleet from existence. Not destroyed, removed. Your warriors will not die because death requires time. They will simply stop. Forever. Choose now. Thesic listened to the human's words. His compound eyes darted across his screens, searching for any explanation for what he had witnessed. His scientists reported nothing. His weapons experts had no answers. 500 ships had ceased to exist, and no one could tell him how. For a moment, just a moment, he considered retreat. Then pride won over wisdom. All ships, Thesic commanded, advance and destroy. Show these humans that the Dominion does not run from tricks. 39,500 Virati ships surged forward. Adeyemi sighed heavily. He had hoped they would choose differently. Signal the fleet, he ordered. All whisper ships, phase in. Engage at will. 199 ships materialized around the Virati armada. They appeared from nowhere, surrounding the massive fleet like wolves circling a herd. Thesic felt the first true fear of his life. How many ships do they have? An officer screamed. 200, another answered. Just 200. It would be enough. The Whisper fleet activated their stillwater devices simultaneously. Bubbles of frozen time expanded across the battlefield. Wherever they touched, Virati ships vanished. 1,000 gone in the first minute. 5,000 gone in the first 10 minutes. 20,000 gone in the first half hour. The Watcher recorded it all. It recorded ships disappearing without trace. It recorded the screams on Virati communication channels turning to silence. It recorded the largest fleet in galactic history being erased like words on a chalkboard. Thesic watched his armada vanish around him. He tried to flee. He tried to surrender. But the human ships were everywhere now, and the frozen time bubbles were expanding. The last thing he saw was a shimmer of light approaching his flagship. Then he saw nothing at all. Forever. 47 minutes after the battle began, it was over. The Virati armada was gone. 40,000 ships. 12 million warriors. Erased from time itself. Captain Adeyemi looked at the empty space where an empire's pride had floated just an hour before. Admiral, he reported quietly, engagement complete. Enemy fleet neutralized. No human casualties. There was a long silence before Okonkwo responded. God help us all. On the Virati homeworld, in a palace that had stood for 3,000 years, broodmother Sithil watched her empire die. She was old, even by Virati standards. Her exoskeleton had darkened with age, and her compound eyes had dimmed. But she had ruled the Dominion for 2 centuries. She had sent 100 fleets to conquer 100 worlds. She had never known defeat. Until now, the screens before her showed nothing. Where 40,000 ships should have been, where 12 million of her warriors should have been fighting and conquering, there was empty space. Not wreckage, not debris, empty space. Explain this, she demanded. Her advisors had no explanation. Her scientists had no theories. Her generals had no strategies. They stood in terrified silence as their broodmother's rage built. Contact any ship, she ordered. Any ship at all. They tried. They reached out across every frequency, every quantum channel, every method of communication the Dominion possessed. The answer was always the same. Silence. 40,000 ships had ceased to exist. The humans, one advisor finally whispered. They did something. A weapon we have never seen. What weapon erases ships without destroying them? Sithil demanded. What weapon leaves no trace, no debris, no energy signature? This is impossible. And yet it happened. Sithil slammed her claw against her throne. The ancient stone cracked beneath the blow. Send another fleet. Send everything we have. I want those humans, brood mother. Her oldest advisor stepped forward. He had served her for 100 years. He had never interrupted her before. We have no other fleet. The armada was our entire military force. Every ship, every warrior, every weapon, they are gone. The words hung in the air like poison. We have orbital defenses, Sithil said slowly. We have ground forces. We have nothing that can reach human space, nothing that can threaten them, and nothing that can stop them if they choose to come here. Far away, in the command center beneath the Swiss Alps, Admiral Okonkwo received the final reports. The Whisper fleet had returned home without a scratch. 200 ships. No casualties. Perfect victory. It did not feel like victory. Admiral, General Sharma reported, the Galactic Assembly is requesting a statement. Every species in the galaxy wants to know what happened. Okonkwo nodded slowly. She had prepared for this. She had hoped she would never have to deliver this message. Open a channel to all assembly frequencies. Maximum broadcast range. The communication officer complied. Across 1,000 worlds, screens lit up with Admiral Okonkwo's face. She looked tired. She looked sad. She did not look triumphant. This is Admiral Diane Okonkwo of the Human Defense Force. 6 days ago, the Varadi Dominion demanded that humanity surrender 3 colonies and 80 million citizens. We refused. The Dominion sent 40,000 warships to take what we would not give. She paused, letting the words settle. Those ships no longer exist. The Varadi Armada has been neutralized. Completely. Permanently. 12 million Varadi warriors are no longer part of this timeline. We did not kill them. We removed them. They exist now in a frozen moment, outside of time itself. They will not age. They will not suffer. They will simply never return. On Station Helix 9, Counselor Maiva watched with her hearts pounding. Around her, diplomats from 300 species stared at their screens in stunned horror. We take no pleasure in this, Okonkwo continued. We built these weapons to protect our people, not to conquer others. We hope we would never have to use them. But when given the choice between surrendering our children to slavery or erasing those who would enslave them, we chose our children. High Sovereign Dral had stopped laughing. His compound eyes were fixed on the screen, his mandibles frozen in shock. He had called humans soft prey. He had called them weak meat creatures. He had been wrong. Let this be clear to all species, Okonkwo said, her voice hardening. Humanity does not seek war. We do not want empires. We do not wish to conquer anyone. But we will protect our own. If any species attacks our people, if any species threatens our worlds, they will face the same fate as the Varadi Armada. Total erasure. Complete removal from existence. She leaned closer to the screen. Do not test us. Please. We do not want to use these weapons again. But we will. Every single time. Without hesitation. Without mercy. Our children matter more to us than your warriors, your ships, your empires. Challenge us, and you will cease to exist. This is not a threat. This is a promise. The broadcast ended. On the Whisper, Captain Adeyemi sat alone in his quarters. He had not eaten since the battle. He had not slept. He kept seeing those ships vanish. One moment full of living beings. The next moment simply gone. Brother Aldrich found him there. Captain, you should rest. I cannot, Father. Adeyemi's voice was hollow. I keep thinking about them. 12 million souls. Frozen forever. Never dying, but never living either. What did we do to them? The old priest sat down beside him. You protected 3 million of our own people. Children who would have been enslaved. Families who would have been broken. You gave them a future. By taking the future from others. By stopping those who would have taken it from many more. Aldrich put a hand on the young captain's shoulder. The Varadi chose war. They chose conquest. They chose to attack people who had done nothing to them. You gave them a chance to retreat. They refused. That does not make it right. No. Aldrich agreed. Nothing makes it right. But sometimes there are no right choices. Only terrible ones and more terrible ones. You chose the less terrible path. That is all any of us can do. On the Varadi homeworld, Broodmother Sithel made her own terrible choice. She summoned her remaining advisors and spoke words that had never been spoken by a Varadi ruler in 3,000 years. Send a message to the humans. Tell them we wish to discuss peace. The word tasted like poison in her mouth, but it was better than ceasing to exist. Far away, humanity received the message. The first step toward ending the war had been taken, but the scars would last forever. Protests filled the streets of Earth's great cities for the first time in 200 years. The people had seen the broadcasts. They had watched their military erase 12 million beings from existence. They had heard the cheers from some quarters and felt sick. This was not who they wanted to be in Tokyo. Millions marched with signs reading, "Not in our name." In Lagos, crowds gathered outside government buildings demanding answers. In Buenos Aires, families lit candles for the erased Verratti. Enemies though they had been, humanity had won. But many humans were not celebrating. Chancellor Freya Lindqvist watched the protests from her office in Geneva. She was a tall woman with silver hair and eyes that had seen too much. She had given the order to deploy the Stillwater weapons. She would carry that weight forever. "Chancellor," her aide reported, "the Galactic Assembly requests your presence. They want to discuss what happened." "I know what they want," Lindqvist replied quietly. "They want to know if we will use these weapons again. They want to know if they should fear us. Should they?" Lindqvist turned from the window. "Tell them I will address the assembly tomorrow and prepare a separate announcement for Earth. Our people deserve answers too." On Station Helix 9, the assembly hall was packed. Every species had sent representatives. Some came out of fear. Some came out of curiosity. Some came hoping to form alliances with this terrifying new power. Ambassador Toval was the oldest being in the chamber. His crystalline body had witnessed 40,000 years of galactic history. He had seen empires rise and fall. He had seen weapons of terrible power. But he had never seen anything like the Stillwater devices. "In all my years," he said to the hushed assembly, "no species has ended a war in 1 hour. The Verratti Armada was the largest fleet ever assembled. It took them 50 years to build. The humans erased it in 47 minutes. Councillor Maiva spoke up. "What does this mean for the rest of us? If humanity can do this to the Verratti, they can do it to anyone." "That is the question," Toval agreed. "Are humans protectors? Or are they the new threat we should all fear?" The chamber fell silent as Chancellor Lindqvist appeared on the main screen. She looked as tired as everyone felt. "Members of the Galactic Assembly," she began, "I will not apologize for defending our people. The Verratti came to enslave 80 million human beings. We stopped them. I would make the same choice again." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. "But I understand your fear. You have seen what we can do. You wonder if we will do it to you." Lindqvist paused, choosing her next words carefully. "So let me be clear. The Stillwater weapons are being sealed. They will be locked in a vault on Earth's moon, guarded by automated systems that even we cannot easily bypass. They will only be activated again if humanity faces extinction." Drawl, diminished now without his great fleet, spoke from his seat. "How can we trust this? You say the weapons are sealed, but words are cheap." "You cannot trust it," Lindqvist admitted. "Just as we could not trust that you would not attack us. But I am telling you the truth anyway. We do not want to rule the galaxy. We do not want empires or slaves or conquest. We just want to live in peace with our children and our gardens and our dreams." On the Verratti homeworld, a young insectoid named Kesith listened to the broadcast. He was barely an adult by Verratti standards. 3 of his brothers had been in the erased fleet. They were gone now. Not dead. Gone that he did not know how to mourn beings who still technically existed somewhere outside of time. He did not know how to hate the species that had taken them. He only knew that everything had changed. Broodmother Sithel sat beside him. She had summoned him because he was young and because he had lost family. She needed to understand what her people felt. "Do you hate them?" she asked. "The humans?" Kesith considered the question. "I do not know. They did not kill my brothers. They stopped them. It is different. I think it is worse. At least the dead can be mourned properly. And if I send you to Earth as an envoy? To negotiate peace." "Peace?" Kesith stared at her. "You want peace with them? After what they did?" "I want survival," Sithel replied. "The humans have weapons we cannot match. They have shown mercy by not using them against our homeworld. I do not understand why, but I will not waste this chance by being proud." Kesith thought of his brothers, frozen forever in a moment they would never escape. He thought of the human chancellor, who looked sad even in victory. He thought of the galaxy watching, waiting to see what would happen next. "I will go," he said finally. "I will speak with them. I will try to understand." 1 week later, Kesith stood before Ambassador Volkov in a small room on Station Helix 9. No guards. No weapons. Just 2 beings trying to find a way forward. "Why did you not destroy our homeworld?" Kesith asked. It was the question that haunted him. "You could have. Your weapons could erase our entire species." Volkov looked at the young Verratti with tired eyes. "Because we are not you. Your people see other species as prey to be conquered. We see them as neighbors who might become friends. We did not want to destroy you. We only wanted you to stop trying to destroy us. My brothers are gone because of you. Your brothers are gone because your leaders sent them to enslave our children. We gave them a chance to retreat. They did not take it. Volkov's voice was gentle but firm. I am sorry for your loss. Truly, I wish none of this had happened. But I will not apologize for protecting our people. Keseth felt anger rise in his chest. He wanted to hate this human. He wanted to blame them for everything. But he remembered his brothers laughing about the easy conquest they expected. He remembered them mocking the soft prey they would enslave. They had chosen war. The humans had simply refused to lose. What happens now? Keseth asked. That depends on you. Your people can spend generations hating us. Or you can help us build something better. A galaxy where no one has to erase anyone. Where different species can disagree without destroying each other. You think that is possible? Volkov smiled sadly. I think we have to try. The alternative is too terrible to accept. Outside the window, stars burned in the endless dark. Somewhere out there, 12 million Virati existed in frozen time. Somewhere out there, weapons capable of erasing entire species waited in sealed vaults. And somewhere in between, two former enemies began the slow, painful work of building peace. The memorial garden on Karos colony had become the most visited place in human space. It sat on a hillside overlooking the valley where 3 million people had sheltered during the invasion that never came. Flowers from 100 human worlds grew there, surrounding a simple stone monument. The inscription read, "Here, we remembered our strength. Here, we prayed we would never need it again." Sarah Volkov walked through the garden as the sun set. She was 26 years old, the daughter of the famous ambassador. She had followed her father into diplomacy, hoping to build the peace he had helped start. Today, she had an unusual visitor. Keseth waited for her near the monument. He was taller now, his exoskeleton darker with age. He served as the Virati ambassador to humanity, a position that would have been unthinkable 5 years ago. He came to this garden every year on the anniversary of the erasure. Ambassador, Sarah greeted him. Thank you for coming. I always come, Keseth replied. This is where my brothers stopped existing. I cannot visit them. I can only visit this place. They stood together in silence, watching the last light fade from the sky. In the distance, children played in the valley below. Their laughter drifted up like music. Do you still hate us? Sarah asked. It was a question she asked every year. I do not know, Keseth answered. It was the same answer he always gave. I understand why you did it. Your people were in danger. Your children were threatened. But understanding is not the same as forgiving. I do not ask for forgiveness, only understanding. Then you have it, for whatever that is worth. On Earth, Admiral Diane Okonkwo prepared for her final public appearance. She had retired 3 years ago, but the anniversary of the erasure always brought her back. People needed to see her. They needed to remember that someone had carried the weight of that decision. She was old now. Her hair had gone completely white. Her hands trembled when she held things too long. But her eyes were still sharp, and her voice was still strong. Admiral, her aide said, the broadcast is ready. Okonkwo nodded and faced the camera. Across human space, millions watched. Across the galaxy, other species listened. This speech had become a tradition, a yearly reminder of what humanity was capable of and what it chose not to do. 5 years ago today, she began. Humanity used weapons that no species should ever possess. We erased 12 million beings from time itself. Not because we wanted to, because we had no other choice. She paused, gathering her thoughts. Some call it our greatest victory. I call it our greatest tragedy. We proved that day that humans can be the most dangerous force in the galaxy. We also proved that we know when to stop. The Stillwater weapons remain sealed in their vault on Luna. They have not been touched since the erasure. They will not be touched unless humanity faces extinction itself. In the Luna Vault, Dr. Ingrid Larson stood before the sealed door. She was very old now, her body frail and her mind still sharp. She came here every year too, not to remember the victory, to remember the cost. Sleep well, she whispered to the machines behind the door. May you never wake. She had built the most terrible weapons in galactic history. She had watched them erase an entire fleet. She had spent every day since hoping they would never be used again. Doctor, a young technician said, the vault systems are all normal. No activity. Good. Keep it that way. On Station Helix 9, The Galactic Assembly held its anniversary session. Ambassador Toval, now even older and slower, addressed the gathered species. 5 years ago, we learned that the universe is more dangerous than we imagined. Not because of the Virati, who thought they could conquer without consequence, but because of the humans, who proved they could end any threat instantly. The chamber was silent. And yet, Toval continued. In 5 years, the humans have not attacked anyone. They have not expanded their territory. They have not demanded tribute or submission. They have simply lived their lives, traded with willing partners, and asked to be left alone. Counselor Maiva spoke from her seat. Some say it is fear that keeps other species from attacking them. Perhaps, Toval agreed. But fear alone does not explain why humans help the Shin rebuild after our plague. It does not explain why they share their medical technology freely. It does not explain why they send teachers and doctors to worlds that once called them monsters. High Sovereign Dral sat in a smaller seat now, his dominion reduced to a minor power. He said nothing. There was nothing left to say. Humanity showed us their teeth 5 years ago, Toval concluded. Since then, they have shown us their hearts. Perhaps that is the true lesson of the erasure. Power means nothing without the wisdom to use it well. On Karos, the memorial ceremony began. Sarah Volkov stood beside Kesith as a human priest spoke words of remembrance. Behind them, Admiral Okonkwo's broadcast played on large screens. "We do not celebrate today," Okonkwo said. "We remember. We remember the threat that forced us to become something terrible. We remember the lives erased because their leaders would not see reason. We remember our own capacity for destruction so that we never forget to choose peace instead." Kesith watched the human faces around him. Some wept. Some stood in silence. None looked triumphant. They carried this victory like a burden, not a trophy. Maybe that was why he kept coming back. The humans had erased his brothers, but they had not forgotten them. They had not celebrated their removal. They had built this garden to remember them. "Ambassador Kesith," Sarah said quietly, "would you like to place flowers on the monument? For your brothers?" Kesith hesitated. Virati did not have this custom. Death rituals were minimal in a species that had always conquered rather than mourned. But perhaps it was time to learn new customs. He took the flowers from Sarah's hands. White blooms from earth, delicate and fragile. He walked to the monument and placed them at its base. "I do not forgive you," he said to the stone, "but I am learning to understand." In her distant nebula, the Watcher recorded this moment too. It had seen 40,000 years of galactic history. It had witnessed countless wars and endless cruelty. But this was something new, a species powerful enough to erase all threats. Choosing to build memorials instead of empires, that a former enemy laying flowers for those who had come to enslave, a galaxy slowly learning that peace was possible, even after terrible violence. The Watcher had no emotions. But if it had, it might have felt something like hope. The stars continued to burn in the endless dark. The weapons slept in their vault. And humanity walked forward into an uncertain future, carrying the weight of what they had done and the hope of what they might become. The erasure was over. The real work was just beginning.